I just played the Precinct and I love this game. It's not perfect, it's not flawless, but it does what it sets out to do so well. It goes out of its way to become an 80s cop simulator, and it does it so well with the music, the setting, and all the gameplay features. It's really well done. So there are parts of it that I just want to gush about. And my favorite part of the game is simply all the patrols you can go on. So at the beginning of every day, you get to choose the type of patrol and shift you choose, because some of the shifts are longer, some are shorter, and then also the patrol type can be in your vehicle or on foot. So the type of patrol also determines what type of crime you may encounter. And this is where the game shines. So you're on patrol and you're checking some license plates, and then you happen to find someone with a warrant. So a typical traffic stop turns into a high-speed chase at any moment. And this simple stop spirals out of control into a high-speed chase across the city with a multi-car pile-up and half the police department trying to get this one guy. And the game gets you so excited for these moments because the music is action-packed. You're crashing through the environment to stop this guy. Your character's shouting at them to stop, and nothing's working, so you have to take them out. And this is the strongest aspect of the game, and where it shines the most is that it's so dynamic on patrol. You can stop anyone at any time just to check their ID to see if something sus is going on. At any moment, this can turn into an arrest. Like in this situation, I found this guy with an ID and he had a warrant on his name, so I had to arrest him. Another situation that happened was there was a drug deal going on and I happened to catch it. The guy ran, so I thought this would just be a typical chase down and arrest situation. It spirals into an absolute shootout because one of the drug dealers freaked out and pulled a gun on us. So at any moment, this game can go from a chill cop simulator where you're making arrests and searching people to an absolute action-packed game where you're having to crash through walls to catch a suspect. There's so much to destroy in these high-speed chases where you feel like an 80s movie star where a cop has to destroy the whole city to capture one criminal. This game makes you feel like you're in an 80s action movie. There's so many little aspects of the game that make it so much better that adds up to making it into such a good game, in my opinion. Such as being able to list off all the offenses an individual suspect may be arrested for. And each proper arrest and the more crimes you arrest someone for gives you more XP, which unlocks this progression system that gives you access to more guns, more equipment, more locations to patrol. And like I said before, the music is so good, it makes you have that 80s feel, and then also the voice acting for even the simplest radio shoutouts just really gets you immersed into the game.
Control, check this one for priors.
And because of how dynamic the game is, it just makes you fall into these situations where it's just action-packed all of a sudden, where suddenly you're just responding to a call, and now you're thrown into this massive shootout with all these gang members.
Police officer, no one move.
At the end of the day, I think the game is great. It has a lot of work into it, a lot of passion, and it does get you immersed really well into that 80s cop vibe. I don't want to say it's a perfect game, but it's really well done. There are issues, there are flaws with it, but overall, I think what it does well, it does amazingly well. As much as I love the Precinct, there are some problems with the game that go beyond just the simple bugs that you expect from a new release. I find the game too restrictive. It may be a problem in my perspective, but I went into this wanting kind of a sandbox cop simulator where you can be a good cop or a bad cop and do what you want, essentially. Stuff. And of course, if you're a dirty cop, there would be punishments and some consequences for your actions, but this game kind of restricts you from even being a dirty cop at all. So you are punished for not doing a good job on patrol, but the problem is it goes beyond just this. So the game tells you what kind of force you are allowed to use, such as non-lethal, restraining, or lethal force. But the problem is if you go beyond this, you will end the patrol. You will end the arrest right there and then. So if you happen to use the wrong type of force, or you happen to just want to roleplay as a dirty cop and hit someone with a nightstick, it'll just end the arrest right there. And I guess that's what's most disappointing about this game is that I want this sandbox environment because it does it so well in this game, but it restricts you to just being the good cop. There is a story to the game, some sort of narrative where you're a good cop trying to take down these big gangs and all that, and it's a very generic story. For me, I wasn't a big fan of it. It felt like kind of like an in-between all the fun things about the game. I think the strongest aspect of the game is the sandbox element and how you can go on patrol and encounter all these various situations, but the problem is that the game really restricts you from just being able to do that all the time. With the strongest element of the game being the sandbox part of it, it should be able to let you play as a good cop or a bad cop if you want to. And I'm not saying that if you play as a bad cop, you shouldn't face some consequences like losing XP and such, but there should be some rewards and ability to do that without just ending the arrest. And I feel like the narrative takes away a bit from the game because I really want it to lean into that sandbox aspect and have a bigger progression system, because right now, the progression seems very limited on what you can unlock. So being a good cop gets you all this XP, but being a bad cop penalizes you and all that. I think the biggest thing is that the sandbox element is the strongest part of the game. The narrative I could take or leave, but I wish they added more to the progression system so you had a lot more things to do and unlock over time. Right now, it just seems somewhat limited on what you can unlock in terms of equipping your character and various vehicles you can unlock. The big thing I wish they had was some sort of way you could unlock things through a criminal element, so there was a reason for you to be a bad cop letting some people go when you shouldn't, and you will be punished by your police department, but you may unlock some things with the criminals. And one counterbalance to you being too dirty of a cop could be Internal Affairs investigating you for some reason, you know? Where you have to make sure you're one step ahead of Internal Affairs figuring out all the scummy things you've done. I think the devs made something really good in this game. I think they made a great basis for a sandbox cop simulator in the 80s that could be amazing, but I wish there was more freedom and more progression so you could play in that sandbox environment with all these crimes happening without that much of a story. And honestly, they just need to up the progression so there's some replayability, so there may be paths where you can take that lock other paths, such as being a dirty cop may lock you out from being like the best cop at the police department. Despite some of these criticisms, I think the game is so well done and there's so much potential for this game to become amazing if they keep updating it and adding different playstyles you can play as this cop in this environment. Right now, it's a fun game where you can like do all these things as a cop, but the thing is, you're restricted to being a good cop and you're restricted to playing between this story that's honestly not captivating for me, and some may enjoy it, but for me, I just kind of want that sandbox environment where you can do all these crazy things as a good cop or a dirty cop and have a big progression tree. At the end of the day, I still love this game, it's still a good game, but I just wish it fleshed out the flexibility part of it so you can play the way you want to play. You want to be that good cop chasing down criminals, go for it. If you want to be a dirty 80s cop, letting some criminals go for some benefits, or just using excessive bursts sometimes, you know, play that way. I would be hooked to this game if you had that flexibility and you having a decent progression system so you can play repeatedly going down different paths. That would be a lot of fun. So it just takes the wind out of your sails when you accidentally use too much force instead of just being punished with an XP penalty or some other sort of punishment, you know? Overall, it's still a good game, but it's just too restrictive at times because sometimes you want to play a little bit different than the devs intended. The devs have you set on this predetermined path of playing a good cop, but what if I just want to play a dirty cop and have like some chaos in the city, you know? But I hope the devs give you more flexibility with the continued updates. As always, thank you for watching, consider subbing, and catch me on a live stream sometime. I play horror and simulator games for the most part.